with long-lasting stress and exhaustion, her body started to shut down. It was at this time she decided to study the effects of nutrition on the brain and to listen to her body's needs. She went to business school and earned an MBA and a doctorate. Jemmy has worked around the world, mastering the wisdom of different cultures and backgrounds, creating her own methodology specifically designed for women and men that want to create healthier behaviors. Her continuous education and experience have equipped her with extensive cutting-edge knowledge from holistic approach to mind-brain nutrition. Jamie's an active member of our San Luis Obispo County Suicide Prevention Council, and I am delighted to have her speaking with us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. 1 second. Technology.
And I'll just remind everyone, you're welcome to type your questions directly to me in the chat, and I will share those. Jemmy, would you prefer that we hold questions until the end, or would you like to take them as they come up?
I would love for everybody to take notes and questions or comments to do it at the end, because otherwise kind of cuts the flow.
Sure, that sounds great. So go ahead and type your questions and comments as they occur to you, and I will field those for Jemmy. We'll have time for questions at the end of her presentation.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, okay. Well, I thought it was only you that had technological problems. Apparently not. Okay, I get out of bed and my legs don't work. I try to open my eyes and I can feel I am in pain throughout my whole body. I can't even move. I am 35 years old, a single mother of 2, working full time and studying. And I don't have time to be sick. My dad was dying of cancer, and I think I am superwoman. I've been handling everything until the morning that my brain just shut down. The stress, the emotional pain, and the lack of good nutrition broke the wires in my brain, and my body stops functioning. I had been running on empty for too long, and my brain had had enough. Have you ever felt that way? Maybe not completely breakdown, but close. I was not sick. There was nothing wrong with me physically, or so the doctor said after many studies. Somehow, I had brought this onto myself. So after many disappointing meetings with doctors, I thought, if there is nothing medically wrong with me, I can do it. In my research and work, I've learned that the brain is the software and the body is the hardware. If the software is not working, then our body is simply an empty box, a puppet with broken strings. And while we go to medication and sometimes invasive treatments to fix the symptoms, no one of those protocols work when you are just putting a Band-Aid in an open wound. Healing has to happen from inside out. I learned all this the hard way when my brain broke down. I was a single mother of 2, working full time and studying when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I offered to take over his business and run it for him. What would you have done? I was 35. You are supposed to take it on, push forward, work harder. My habits were not that different probably from many of you right now. Actually, I was vegan and I did not eat much at all. I was under a lot of stress, so my diet was not my focus. You could say from the outside that I was healthy, although a bit skinny. But the truth was, under stress, I have developed a pattern of self-destruction. A behavior I had developed to survive my abusive marriage for 10 years. The marriage was over by now, but the behavior remained. I remember the morning when my brain had said enough is enough. It was a weekday. It was a Tuesday, actually. With a full schedule of work, caring for my 2 children, both in the school age and 100% dependent on me. The alarm went off and I tried to open my eyes and I could barely open my right eye. The eyelid was not responding to my command. I got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom. Each step felt like a mile. All of a sudden, I moved and I felt like I was 100 years old. The world slowed way down. The doctor's diagnosis went from MS to leukemia or some neurological degeneration, but after weeks of tests, they had no answers for me, nor did they have a treatment. In the meantime, I laid in bed, my father next to me. Yes, he who had cancer was now taking care of me, wishing it could all go away. It was until doctors realized that something had happened, um, but they could not understand what or how to treat it. Then I was forced to find my own path. The recovery was slow, but food became my medicine. I was reminded of a treatment I had received in India many years earlier. And when I jumped off a train on my way to Bombay, don't worry, that is a whole other story, and we are not going to touch that one today. But I did survive it. For a moment, I thought I would never walk again, but a Ayurveda doctor saved my life. So here I am, laying in bed, reminded that there is more than medicine, and I slowly began to looking for answers in alternative treatments and food. Deep inside, I knew I did that to myself. All the years being married to an abuser turned me into a self-destructive bitch. I kept repeating myself, I had a good childhood, I had loving parents, and no problems. And this question kept popping in my mind, how did I put myself through all this self-inflicted pain? I have spent years learning about my pathways where self-doubt and fear crept in all the time. I began observing my thoughts while at the same time becoming very aware and careful of what I put in my body. I began a journal of my thoughts and the foods I ingested to the detail. I recorded how I felt on my daily basis. I started to try one food at a time and journal. Test the smell, texture, time chewing, flavor, digestion time, energy levels after eating, emotional state after eating, thoughts while eating it. Simple sentences that help me to know what foods work for me and what didn't work, even if it was very healthy, like broccoli. I was committed to knowing my brain, understanding that we are all different and that I needed to honor what my brain needed to become healthy. I needed to find the right foods for my brain. Then I moved to observing my habits. I learned how to unlearn habits. I realized that my brain had learned the habit of self-destruction. The brain and I had to unlearn it. The brain and the mind adapt a new habit by repetition. This is the only way we learn. We repeat the same behavior over and over, and it turns into a habit. And think that almost all habits are habitual. It's called synapses, neurologically speaking. We have a thought and we take an action, and that creates something like a tattoo in the brain. If we repeat the same pathway more than once, the tattoo gets stronger to the point of creating a pattern so strong that can't be deleted. That is the reason some habits are so difficult to give up, even more so when are unhealthy habits. Unhealthy habits are created when our mind is in survival. It is our way to cope. That Tuesday morning, when everything stopped, was the beginning of a new life for me. While food and new habits and managing my thoughts were all part of my healing, what really shifted for me was my focus on understanding my brain, how to control my thinking and allow the body to heal itself. That's why I became a brain expert instead of a health expert. The brain is the one organ that controls your overall well-being. And why you must start there. Why brain health and not body health? Let me break it down. The brain is the software. When I say the brain is the software, I mean the brain is the one organ that is in a closed box. According to the CDC, the brain is the highest, according to the CDC, sorry, got distracted. According to the CDC, the brain has the highest rate of misdiagnosis of any other organ in the body. The reason is because it is in a locked box. it is the most sensitive, the softest, the most important. And if you ever had a mental or a brain problem like I did, you will agree that it is the most amazing organ of all. We might harm it drinking, doing drugs, taking abuse from others, fighting in wars, being overly stressed, or sometimes even playing football. But if you know what to do and you have the right help, your brain will always know how to go back to full health with time and the right microclimate for it. Time. This is the biggest problem today. We want a quick fix. We expect to get a magic pill to feel better right away. Well, that is not how deep healing works. Deep healing takes time, a committed decision, a consistent action to make it happen, no matter what it is that you deeply want to heal. In my case, it took 1.5 years. Let me put this in perspective. 10% of the adult workforce is being diagnosed and treated for mental health problems in the US right now. We tend to treat the symptoms without auditing the source, the brain and the mind, the thinking, the chicken and the egg. While we treat the symptoms, we too often forget the source, the brain. And of course, our mind, our thinking, right? When Jessica came to me, Jessica was a client for the first time. She had type 2 diabetes. It runs in the family, she said. What really ran in the family was unhealthy eating habits. But at that point, she was already on insulin. We worked her eating habits, lifestyle behaviors. We implemented some new routines, and voila, in 3 months, she wasn't a diabetic anymore. 6 months later, she was not only off medication, but she didn't have a pre-existing condition, which made her healthcare premium drop to a minimum like any other healthy person. She changed her life forever by making a committed decision, taking time and action consistently. Today, she knows how to manage herself, doesn't need me. In fact, she is a certified dynamic nutrition specialist. Sarah came to me for weight loss. It didn't take much to figure out that she was severely depressed. She had suffered from one of the most severe childhood abuse I have ever heard. She had carried PTSD, Stockholm syndrome, codependency, and other compulsive behaviors. She understood right away we couldn't put our attention in losing weight until we could address all her other problems. Sarah had been taking antidepressants at that time for over 20 years, on and off, of course, anti-anxiety and sleeping pills just to make it through the day. She had a loving, supporting husband and a son, but she couldn't be happy. She couldn't feel happiness. The past was haunting her night and day. She was still a victim of her family dynamics. In fact, all her siblings were still using the passive-aggressive behavior they learned from their parents. Sarah learned how to love herself, how to move on from the past. She became extremely connected to the present, which helped her manage her thinking. She stood up for herself for the first time in her life to her siblings since she was the little one, and learned how to make herself happy every day of her life. She stopped bringing her past experiences to the present moment. Last year, she had open heart surgery, and the first thing that she said to me was, I wouldn't have gone through this in this peaceful way if I wouldn't have learned to manage my thinking patterns. 95% of success is mindset. 5% is action. That was a success and she did it. These are two simple examples of people who work through rewiring their brain, and that made their bodies chronically sick. That rewiring the brain made their body healthy. So what does the brain of a successful person looks like? Success being defined by the 3% of wealth on earth. According to an article published in the New York Times about a study focused on the difference between being rich or poor on behalf of health, rich people live 9 years more disability-free than poor people. So this 3% of the population is not only wealthier, but also healthier. So what does the brain look and talk about actual elements of healthy brain? If we were to study what these people, what one of those persons they looks like, we will find these behaviors, some common behaviors that they have. So they get up between 5 and 6 a.m. They exercise on the daily basis. They tend to practice continuous education. They practice gratitude. Often they belong to a mastermind group. They practice some kind of a spiritual practice, meditation, prayer. They visualize. They know what they want. They eat clean food. They are aware of the things that might not be so good for their body. They measure themselves. They eat good fats. They drink water. They eat superfoods in the daily basis. They are connected to nature in some way. They have coaches working with their health. They know they can't do it all on their own. So what do these people experience on a regular basis? They experience a sense of power. They can control the things they put in their body. They have a balanced way of living for the most part, mixing pleasure and health, right? Healthy living. It is easier to have positive thinking, control your thoughts, set up goals, and work towards them when your brain is functioning in equilibrium. You experience more peace, your stress levels go down, and you can make better decisions, choices, and manage your internal dialogue towards the experiences you want to have. It is the brain that we must take care of if we want to live an optimal life. We must update the software for the hardware to function properly. So I want to invite you to imagine what would be possible if you were living pain-free, addiction-free, depression-free. If you wake up every day feeling in control of your thinking and your choices, having full energy, eager to learn and live your best life. That's what is possible for you if you focus on updating your brain towards its healthiest form. So, where do we start? Let me share the screen. Can I share the screen here? Let's see.
You should be able to, Jemmy.
Okay. I can't. For some reason it says the host disabled me. I can't.
Alicia,
okay.
Can we make Jemmy a co-host? I don't know if I can do it. Let me see if I can, Jemmy.
Okay.
Let's see. Sorry, Jemmy, I'm looking.
It's okay. Oh, now, there you go. It's just because, you know, they can see other things that is not only my face.
Oh, super.
Okay, so where do we start? So the most important thing that the brain needs basically is fats, healthy fats. Let me see, hold on. Healthy fats. Here. Our brain is almost 90% fat, even though there is all kinds of things inside. Fat is the most of it. Good fats is what our brain needs the most. And basically plant-based, like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, nuts, seeds, herbs, all those are packed with good fats. Also essential oils from herbs. Cod liver oil, krill oil, and salmon are the only good animal fat that our brain benefits from. Another thing that our brain needs is protein. Protein, I always suggest plant-based protein, but you have a choice. You can do you can do also some choices of animal protein. But when we talk about protein intake, it doesn't matter if we choose animal or plant-based protein. For our brain and our body, protein is protein. What matters really is the amount we have in every meal. A good amount of protein is what it will be the size of the palm of your hand. Bigger amount of protein. What we want to do is be very mindful of how much animal protein we have in the daily basis. It is better to have plant-based protein than animal protein for other reasons, right? The main reason is because animals, even the ones that are raised organically without hormones and medication, have their own natural hormones like us, as we do. I mean, like all the hormonal systems. When we eat their hormones, those hormones interfere with our hormonal system, and they can cause all kinds of imbalances. Not only external hormones can cause issues to our health, body, and brain. Our body naturally releases hormones that are counterproductive to our well-being, such as the stress hormones, right? Like cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. These hormones can be very useful for survival, but not so much in the daily stuff that we are doing, which is what we know in the day. I mean, like every day with what we call stress, right? Like balancing your hormones. To balance your hormones, we need a balanced life. I got sick because of prolonged stress. That happens when the body fights itself. Stress hormones decrease your immune system and the body capacity to fight against any attack. Then many autoimmune diseases are developed for that reason. Another good thing is to spend time in nature. And since we live here in this area, it's so easy. But you know, like you have to find a way to spend time outdoors. Learning meditation, do things that makes you happy, and be grateful for who we are and what we have are some of the things that we can do to balance these hormones, right? Like our thoughts change the chemistry in our brain. Another thing that we need is minerals. Besides that we can also eat food that will strengthen our immune system and our stress response, such as vitamins and minerals like magnesium, but always from a food source. Our body doesn't know how to process chemicals. It's not designed for that. So one of the minerals like magnesium, we will find it in cacao. Raw cacao powder is an amazing source of it. It's healthy and tasty, and it strengthens our central nervous system, calms down our brain because it has tryptophan, and increases the amount of neurotransmitters in our brain that helps us to stay on task and focus. We need billions of neurotransmitters for every thought and action that we want to take. Cacao helps you with that. We also need vitamins. Vitamins are very, very important, but the same thing, always from a food source, from nature. One of the vitamin family that we need the most is vitamin D. This is the vitamin that we get normally from the sun. But in order to get all the vitamin D that we need from the sun, we should spend 45 minutes bare naked in the sun to get that amount. Realistically, no one can do that. The good news is that there are also a couple of foods that carry vitamin D, like cod liver oil, krill oil, which happen to be really good fat for your brain too. Vitamin D, very important to take it because it prevents you and protects you from getting cancer. Vitamin C also prevents our cells from oxidation. That means it helps to our cells to stay younger, longer. I said oxidation, no oxygenation. There is a distinction on that, and we can talk about it. Also vitamin B. Vitamins is straight brain food. Some whole grains and semi-grains, such as buckwheat and quinoa, avocado, broccoli, and some nuts carry lots of vitamin B, but blue-green algae contains the entire family of vitamin B, which prevents brain degenerative problems such as dementia and Alzheimer's. Vitamin E, which basically are fats to prevent inflammation and heart disease. Essential oils have lots of vitamin E, and we already touched them with the fats. Another thing that our brain needs, along with our body, is water. Very important. Water helps to keep our brain soft and flexible, which is vital for the neuroplasticity on our brain. Neuroplasticity is the capacity of the brain to recover from almost any damage, anything that, like we have a broken bone. Yes, the bone repairs itself, but it's always the brain that sends the message how to repair the bone. And that happens because neuroplasticity. Connect with yourself. Being in nature is important for our brain. We breathe better quality oxygen, but foremost for our mind. We feel more connected when we are in nature, helping our brain to release the good hormones, endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin. These are the happy hormones, and neuroplasticity helps the brain to feel more balanced when all of this is in harmony and equilibrium. Very important to a positive mindset. Thoughts are a choice. We choose to have positive thoughts and negative thoughts. They come from the same place. When our brain is well nourished, we can choose easier. We can think two things at once. We cannot think positive and negative at once. So what we want to do when a negative thought creeps in is to shift to a positive thought. Distract your mind with something positive, and the positive and the negative thinking will be less strong. Be mindful when a negative thought comes in. Try to exchange it for a positive one. What helps me often is to grab a book and read. Sometimes it's really difficult to switch from negative to positive. So what I do is I try to focus my attention in something that is distracting. So I don't go in that, like that rabbit hole of negative thinking that is really difficult after to pull yourself up. So distract your mind with something that is positive. Can be a happy picture or a movie or something that keeps you away from that. Exercise is also very, very important, not only to stay strong and have a nice body. Good amount of exercise will keep your happy hormones flowing and in balance inside your brain consistently. That counteracts the stress hormones. That counteracts cortisol. Exercise mindfully helps to keep good mindset and good healthy routine. Also, very important, sleep, sleep hygiene. This is the last, but not the least. To have a good night of sleep, our brain needs to rest. 8 hours is ideal, 7 hours is okay, 6 hours is too little. To have a good night of sleep, we need to have a good sleep hygiene. We can start by turning off any screens 30 minutes before bed while we are in front of a screen. Our brain will keep thinking that it's daylight. Our brain doesn't distinguish, doesn't know about daylight or artificial light. We need to sleep in the dark with a good temperature. If possible, go to bed before 10 p.m. to ensure good cell renewal and good restoring time. But the last thing that I want to ask you is today, when you go back at home to take action, to start somewhere, open your pantry and pull out everything in there that has labels with ingredients that you cannot pronounce or you cannot picture in nature. Put all those foods in a bag and throw them away. Everything you do, everything you think, and everything you eat changes the chemistry in your brain. Makes it easier to have a healthy brain, to have a healthy mindset. Start by eating clean food. Start eating food without labels. Thank you. Okay, so if we have any questions, do we have any questions?
I do see one question in the chat. Somebody's hoping that your PowerPoint will be available after.
Yes, it is longer than these, but yes, anybody can. Actually, I think Alicia has it, but I can. Yeah, I already sent it to her.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would like to know if you have if there's a book that you would recommend for additional information about some of these things that you've talked about.
Well, many of these things are based in my experience. There is all sorts of books. Actually, I am about to finish mine, but not yet there. Yeah.
So coming soon. So
coming soon.
In the meantime, Jemmy, what would you recommend that we read?
I mean, there is all kinds. I mean, like Andrew Weil, Dr. Andrew Weil talks about food and medicine. Mark Hyman talks about food and medicine. Deepak Chopra talks about food and medicine as medicine. Who else? Daniel Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen talks about that, and he's a brain specialist. He's a psychiatrist, but he talks about that too. So there is all kinds of authors. I mean, like, so I created my own blueprint. So I put all kinds of things together, right? So it's a little bit difficult to say. That's why I was writing the book, because, you know, it's that unique thing, the way that I work. But all these authors and all these doctors, they treat the body mostly with food instead of medicine. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. We have another question about...
Can I interrupt you momentarily, Megan?
Of course.
Just because someone had asked about the book, someone else shared a book called Eat Yourself Smart by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. So I will share that in the chat with everyone.
Thanks, Alicia. Somebody wanted to know more if this was something they wanted to be certified in, or learning more about certification in eating for better brain health. Are there other resources you would recommend?
Yeah, they can talk to me individually.
Oh, fantastic.
I am always available for that.
Okay. Somebody would like to know if you could talk a little bit about the difference between oxygenation and oxidation.
Oxidation. So oxidation is rest. When our cells, you know, like throughout the day, our cells die by the millions every day. And our brain has to renew our cells. During the renewal process, that happens at night when we go to bed, and it happens a very specific time. Our brain starts regenerating cells from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., our body rests and all these cells sink and they go to the right spot. Oxidation is rust. When our cells are about to die, they rust and then they die and the body gets rid of them. That's how we age, right? Oxygenation is add oxygen to your body. This is one of the things that I always suggest and I recommend to my clients. Oxygenation is eat the things that brings your energy, your oxygen levels in blood higher. Because, and I will say a couple of things that you can do to do that. But what happens is stress, cortisol hormones deprive your blood from oxygen. They make your blood acidic and they deprive oxygen. That means that your brain will be less oxygenated. So we have less resilience to stress. We have more trouble focusing. We have more, we are more prone to be foggy, you know, like this fogginess when we get up in the morning. It's not always due to lack of oxygen, but it happens. Most recently, I had a case of an older man that had like such a severe apnea that he wasn't even breathing throughout the day. So it wasn't only at night, he wasn't breathing throughout the day. And every time that we practice a breathing exercise, he cannot stop yawning because his brain is oxygenating more than usual. So oxygen is not only what we breathe, but also what we put in our body. So the things that you can start working on is all the leafy greens. Leafy greens have lots of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is oxygen. You will digest the oxygen, it will go through your bloodstream, your body will be oxygenated. And that counteracts the effect of oxidation. And then you can have some superfoods that will help you with that. Superfoods like the blue-green algae that I was talking, or chlorella will help you with that too. Chlorella is an amazing microalgae. It has a gift called the growth factor. The growth factor means that the plant itself, that microalgae, quadruples itself every 20 hours. So when it goes inside our body, helps the cell renewal, increases the chances to renew your cells overnight. So there is a few things that we can do. Water helps too, but you know, like because we are often too stressed, we are often, and when we talk about the stress, there is a whole range of motion, right? Like we are stuck in traffic and that's a stress, and then we can be in a car accident and the stress is much bigger, right? Like there is a big range of motion between those two. But in all cases, your body will release cortisol, and cortisol deprives your blood from oxygen. So you want to make sure that you increase oxygen in your diet.
Thank you, Jemmy. In the middle of your presentation, you were talking about a couple minerals. Can you just repeat what those were? Minerals for your health.
Yes, I think the only one that I mentioned was magnesium, but I will mention another one. Yes, so magnesium is the mineral that our brain needs the most, because what it does is it strengthens your central nervous system. So that means that you will be more resilient. You will be more resilient to stress. Your central nervous system is the one that gets weakened when the cortisol levels are really high. The central nervous system is the one that gets affected when people develop autoimmune disease. And the reason is always due to cortisol levels. So we want to be eating the things that will increase and I always suggest food, right? Like, as I said, cacao has lots of magnesium, but sometimes it's not enough, right? Like, for example, one of the signs when our body is lacking magnesium is people have cramps, you know, like those cramps that the muscle gets all tied up and is painful. That's a sign that your body is lacking magnesium. your central nervous system is lacking magnesium. So when that happens, I usually suggest magnesium in tablets, because cacao will take a little bit longer. So cacao has lots of benefits, but is slow building up. If you have, like an issue like this one, you want to do magnesium. Yeah.
Thank you. So nice transition into the next question. Someone wanted to know what your thoughts are about vitamin supplements.
So if the vitamins don't come for food, so you have to think one thing with everything that we do, everything that we eat. Our body is designed to process only one thing, and that one thing is food. When we are eating anything else that is not food, and when I say anything else, I mean all the, from the chemicals that factories use inside the processed food, to medications, to vitamins that are man-made. To me, the liver is the one that processes the chemicals, processes all the nutrients in your body, and uses them for your benefit or cannot use them. When something is man-made, like the multivitamin thing, which is a very common thing, the body doesn't use it. Basically, what it does is it creates a pile of fatty liver, because the liver, what it does is when gets one of those, I'm going to call it toxics, because the liver identifies two things: food or toxics, or is good or is a threat for your body, right? So what it does is, when doesn't know how to use it, it wraps it up with fat and storages. Usually storage is in the liver, and when the liver gets overloaded, storage is in your belly. And that's when, like around the waist, it starts growing, because there is a lot of, chemicals that haven't been processed, and the body, to protect you from the threat, creates fat. That's the fat that usually makes us fat.
What about the vitamins that claim to be from natural resources?
Well, you have to check the labels. Always check the labels, always, and not the nutritional fact label, the ingredients label. If the vitamins come from food source, if you can picture that plant in nature or that food in nature, that's used for the body. Like, for example, chlorella. I mean, if you check the label, it will say chlorella. There is nothing else there, right? Like, there is one food and that's it. When there is all kinds of things that you don't know, and when they say, like vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C from food source, why do we want to believe them, right? Like sometimes it's extracted from extraction. So the process of getting that vitamin is so far from being food that is not useful anymore, right? Like, if anybody is specifically concerned about one of those, and if they are getting the vitamins they need, or the things that they feel like they might be lacking, just talk to me. I mean, Alicia, can you put my email in the chat so people can reach out to me?
Yes, most certainly. So I'm doing that now. And so for some of those specific questions, maybe about your personal dietary needs, please reach out to Jemmy for that. Jemmy, there's a couple questions that I wanted to get to. Multiple people have asked this, and we love the idea of not eating food with labels, of switching diet, getting, those minerals in, but there's a lot of variety of socioeconomic status here, and especially with the clients that people serve. And so we're curious, how can people change their diet while working with a limited food budget? So I know some supplements can get pretty pricey.
Yes. So I'm always conflicted to answer this question, because this is so interesting for me, the priorities that we all have sometimes, right? I mean, like, if you cannot afford supplements or superfoods, which I do agree that sometimes can get pricey, you want to eat food that is real. That's usually good enough. If you eat good fats, like avocado, olive oil, or coconut oil, this is already good fat for your brain. And then eat foods that have no labels. And when I say foods that have no labels, I mean vegetables are not that expensive. I mean, like if you if you go to McDonald's and you get, I don't know, for $3, you get a whole meal. You can buy, I don't know, 2 heads of broccoli or 2 cabbages, and you will have a little bit more than 2 meals. As it's just to know. I mean, like, yes, and I agree. Vegetables are also not the cheapest thing, and I just say that because it comes to mind. One of the veterans that I am working with, that they all. I mean, he always has trouble with, like he has to buy food from stamps and all of that, and the bank food, it has only high carbs, right? Like pasta and rice and beans. That's what they give them. I know this then is tough to do it, but usually there is organizations and there is the stores, when they get rid of inventory from the day before, they usually give food to people if you go and you ask for. I mean, most recently I had that question to help that because he needed help health-wise, and he saw himself eating just only these high carbs, and it was really challenging, and it was a little bit frustrating for me. And I called the grocery outlet in Los Osos because he's from there, and like we made an arrangement. So it's sometimes we lose because we don't ask for things, right?
Yeah, and I know here locally in San Luis Obispo County, we have multiple farmers markets that do 2 for $1 for CalFresh. So if you have $1 through CalFresh, it goes to $2 towards the market. And so maybe researching that within your own region, and if that doesn't currently exist, maybe working with your public health department or something of that nature to encourage the local farmers markets to participate and sign up through that program. It can also mean, doing some consulting with a family of meal making. So it might take that extra step, maybe a social worker or just a friend. Someone can come in and do meal prep and kind of model what that looks like a couple times. But yeah, time, we do know that time is also an issue when you're a working family and you have children and you're moving them around to different places, and it definitely can be hard. So
let me give you an example that what I do, because this is something that I do in the weekly basis. I don't like to prepare my lunch every day because it will catch me usually in the middle of working, right? So what I do is on the weekend, I will prepare my meals for the whole week. And I don't mind eating the same thing every day for lunch. I just make sure that it's a very balanced meal, right? Like, for example, this week I have quinoa salad. You can have a lot of quinoa in one, like in not much money. Quinoa also is one superfood that carries its own oxygen. So that will bring your oxygen levels up, right? Like quinoa is a semi-grain that grows in the Andes in high altitude, so grows deprived of oxygen, is one of the foods that we call adaptogens. They adapt to hostile environment. And when you eat quinoa, brings your oxygen levels up. So what I do is I boil, like, I don't know, a pound of quinoa, and I add cucumber, bell pepper, and not much, but like 1 or 2 of each, carrots. I make a good dressing with olive oil and a little bit of mustard, some vinegar or a lemon juice, and it's delicious. And I eat the whole week the same. Also, quinoa has protein, so it's plant-based protein. I don't have to worry about that. I have vegetables. I feel satisfied because it's fulfilling. You know, like this is just an example, but that meal for the whole week, it doesn't cost much. I mean, it doesn't cost you much money. Sometimes it's just knowing the things that you can use. I think that's also a problem, you know, like people get stuck with the things that they know, and sometimes ask, like my website, I'm not 100% sure now, but just reach out for me. I have an ebook. No, ebook is a booklet with a whole bunch of recipes, and all of them are super healthy and super easy to prepare. There is no one of them that it will take you more than 20 minutes to prepare. And you can have a whole, you know, like prepare for 2 or 3 meals, and you have 3 lunches in 1 week. Meal prep is important to me.
Jemmy, if you were going to give us a short list of superfoods to get started with, like here are half a dozen things that are like the quinoa example that are easy to cook and easy to eat several days in a row in salads. What would your short list of superfoods look like? Like here are some easy ways to start to make these changes.
So another thing that they put in that salad is kale. Kale is the new beef. It has some protein. Also, is a very dark leaf, and dark leaves have higher level of chlorophyll, more oxygen there. So that will be my second one. Another one that like coconut oil is very, you know, like to me, if you have to stir fry vegetables, use coconut oil. Coconut oil is one of the fats that, and I know there is controversy with this too, but I did work in a study years ago with a man that was 75 years old and had a very advanced case of Alzheimer's. And coconut oil repair, for the most part, at least 75% of the white matter that was missing. The problem was that it was so degenerated, the brain was so degenerated that he lost already some abilities like the talk and the moving freely, memory. But the white matter was almost fully recovered. So if we do this kind of habits before we get to a place that, you know, like it will be more difficult to go back, you know, like it's prevention is the best medicine. Prevent the future damage is what you want to do. Other superfoods like, you know, like maca, chlorella, all of those are brain food. The blue-green algae that I mentioned before, it has the whole vitamin B family. Yeah, I mean, I do, fish oils are also good, right? Like fish oils help to create strong connections in our brain, right? Like these neural pathways. When we are developing new habits, we want to make sure that our brain has a strong connection so we can stick with that habit. And the best one is cold pressed cod liver oil. Krill oil is really good. And for people that is vegan, flaxseed oil. Right? Like I am not vegan. I always say, if you are good 80% of the time, you can be bad 20% of the time. And it's not about being bad. It's just be more flexible with yourself. Like for me, during the week, for 5 days a week, I am basically vegan. I don't eat anything that is animal related. But in the weekend, I want to be flexible. If I feel like eating fish, I will eat fish. If I feel like eating cheese, I will eat cheese. Right? So if you do good the most of the time, you can be, you know, you can do whatever you want for a couple of days. No problem for that. Yeah.
Jemmy, you mentioned a food that has all of the B vitamins. Can you remind us what that food is, please?
Yes. So that's blue-green algae. It's a microalgae, and you will find it in powder or in tablets. And this one is really good specifically for people that has thyroid problems, because it comes from fresh water. The other algae come from salty water. This one comes from fresh water, and it comes only from one place and one place only, and that's the Klamath Lake in Oregon.
Wow.
So yes, so all the brands buy the algae in the same place. They just rebranded different ways, but it's all the same algae.
And Jimmy, is that one of those things that's okay to take in a supplement, or should we be sprinkling blue-green algae on our toast?
No, I don't suggest you that one because it will be like drinking from a swamp.
So
No.
tablet form is okay
Yes.
on that one? Okay.
Yes, I mean, as far as one food, you know, like you want to make sure that the label says that's the food that contains, right? Like it will say blue-green algae. That's the ingredient that it has. That's all,
Okay.
right? So it's just food. It's just food in another form. It's in tablet, right? Yeah, that's good. Some people, you know, like some people, I have some clients that they are more risky and they do the algae in powder inside the shake. I always say be careful with that one because some people doesn't feel the flavor that much, and some people is very sensitive. Like I can smell the algae 1 mile away. I have to take it with tablet. I cannot eat it in powder. Yeah.
Is blue-green algae a common supplement to purchase at any store, or should we be looking for that? Can we buy it online?
So if you go to, yes, so if you go to any store, like blue-green algae is a tricky one, because if you go to the store, they will say spirulina is a blue-green algae. It's not the same. Spirulina is salty water. It's not blue-green algae. Blue-green algae, actually, if you mix it with water, is blue. It's not green. So it's different. It's very different. So this one, I suggest you to go to online. I always buy at the same store. They should pay me for this one because I always suggest the same one. It's VitaCost, and only because they have the best prices. And I love buying local, but these kind of supplements, because they get pricey, they have like half a price of anywhere else. It's you know, like it's just, I know, you know, like it's just, I will never buy an Amazon though. Okay, don't go to Amazon. Do VitaCost. It's a small
Is blue-green
company.
algae something we can take every day?
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe
I
to
do
take
it every day. Mm-hmm.
And can you, repeat the name of the store just one more time?
It's VitaCost, VITA, like vitamin, cost. So VitaCost.com. That's the website.
Jemmy, I see another question in the chat about are there optimal times to eat that you would recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, there is all kinds of discrepancies with this one because, you know, like people with the fasting and I need to eat 5 times a day, 6 times a day. Ideally, we should be eating 3 times a day. You get up in the morning, you have been fasting for 8 or 10 hours. So you want to eat and you want to have a good breakfast, healthy breakfast, and to leave the house. You don't want to leave the house with coffee in your empty stomach and then have breakfast mid-morning, because the beginning of the morning, your body will be stressed and will release cortisol. You want to leave the house that your stomach is satisfied and you take on the day much better. And then you have a meal during midday, 12, 1, and then you have dinner, preferably before 7.
Okay.
So you go to bed with your stomach that is not full already. But yeah, you want to make sure that your meals, you don't need to snack. If you have 3 complete meals, you don't need to snack in between. Snacking causes your stomach to work constantly. And when your stomach works constantly, it grows. Gets used to putting food inside. So most likely you will be overeating. You will be eating more calories than you burn. So yes, you will be gaining weight.
Jemmy, you mentioned that blue-green algae supports thyroid health. Are there other foods you recommend for thyroid support?
Yes, another one is beets. Beets not only support thyroid, but also support all the hormonal systems. Beets is known for balancing your hormones. So when I have somebody that has several issues, like let's say there is some kind of behavioral or mental health problem, and then they have low libido, or they have thyroid, or they have adrenal fatigue, what I will do is I will recommend to eat beets. If possible, raw is much better than cooked. You know, like beets is one of those things that it does change the quality, change the capacity or the strength of the benefits if you cook them. And raw, the way that you eat them raw is in shakes. It makes an awesome shake. You know, like you can put any berries and half a beet, and it makes it sweet. The colorful, the color of beet, that purple juice of the beet is filled with antioxidants, will prevent from oxidation. And beets are very inexpensive. So it's one of the things that, you know, like we should be eating every day.
What are your thoughts on turmeric?
So.
Oh, so sorry. I thought you were done.
No, I was going to say women more so, because we have all these hormonal imbalances throughout our life, and beets help you to be careful with the beet though, because for some people beets are a little bit hard to digest because they have a lot of fiber. So, you know, like if you don't know if beet is good for you, try one day a little bit. Don't go too hard, because it can cause a little bit of discomfort in your stomach. It doesn't happen all the time or for everybody, but with some people, yeah, you want to be careful. Go ahead, Alicia, sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you. We have a couple questions about different supplements. So one of them is, what are your thoughts on ashwagandha? And then another is, what are your thoughts on turmeric supplements?
So ashwagandha is an awesome herb, and ashwagandha is really good for stress. So if you are stressed, I always, like, for example, one of my clients that with type 2 diabetes, which I am positive that is because she is very stressed, ashwagandha works wonders, because then she's not stressed, so she has less cravings, more in control of her eating habits, and we don't have that much problem with the sugar. So ashwagandha is an awesome herb. I would suggest, you know, like it all depends. So if anybody is particularly interested in this one, I need to know more of the specifics of the person to say, take one, take two, morning, night, you know, like I need to know the specifics. But yes, ashwagandha is an awesome plant, herb for stress. And turmeric is the most powerful anti-inflammatory on earth. So it's, you know, like we should be eating turmeric every day. I often recommend a shake that has half a beet, half a sweet potato if it's small. If not, like a handful of sweet potato pieces, and a chunk of turmeric root in a blender, and then some almond milk, and it's delicious. It's very sweet. Everything is raw. Is very nutritious, and is very satisfying because it has lots of fiber, right? And turmeric and sweet potato, both of those are anti-inflammatory foods. So we reduce inflammation. Think that inflammation is caused basically, I mean, there is two main reasons. One is stress, which is the most common one. And the second one is food. Some foods cause inflammation. So we want to eat things that reduce inflammation all the time. Yeah. That's awesome. So many questions.
I know there's a lot. I have a feeling you're going to receive a lot of follow-up emails.
That's good.
Yes, so for some of the specific questions about specific diet needs, folks, please feel free to reach out to Jemmy via email. I do want to ask one last question. I think this will help a lot of folks who are supporting families who might need to adopt their diet. So one of the questions was, who would be the best person to refer families regarding any additional questions when changing their eating habits? Would that be a primary doctor? Is a dietitian or nutritionist better to go to? Where should they start?
Well, I would say to me.
So say they're already seeing a doctor, maybe that works better with their budget right away. Would like a general practitioner be good?
Like I always offer, and like all you guys, we will have to cut it in different sessions, but I always offer one free consultation, and with that free consultation you get a place to start. So if anybody wants, just shoot me an email and we will figure out the time and a day so we can do that if there is any specifics. The difference, so some doctors are like open to talk about food. Is not their training, right? Like some doctors are, but it's very rare. Usually doctors are trained to save lives, and that means that they are taking care of the symptoms that are that can cause more damage or more harm in the person, right? So sometimes dietitian and nutritionist, yes, I mean like that can work. Yeah, I will never suggest to do any diet specifically, because when people get like, oh, I'm going to do the keto diet, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, right? Like there's no one diet that fits us all. So it's right. So if you go to a nutritionist, like they will give you a good advice, that's for sure, right? The only thing is they will address the diet, they will address your eating habits. Sometimes they don't address the behavior, and like what we do is we address the behavior that drove the person to eat the way that they are eating. That's what I say to me, because that's what we do. That's in what we specialized in, addressing the behavior that drove the person in eating unhealthy in the first place. That's treating the cause or the root of the problem, not the symptom, right? That's why people have so much trouble at sticking with a diet, right? Because the behavior is not addressed. So, like the problem is still there. It's just, it will work for a certain period of time, but then eventually it will fade away. Does it make sense?
It does to me. There might be some more follow-up questions. So I'm so sorry, everyone, amazing questions in the chat right now. We're not able to get to all of them. However, Jemmy is happy to do that consultation. If you want to reach out to her, check out her website. All that information is in the chat. So please feel free to reach out. And then we can talk a little bit more in the other chat as well, but we do have a schedule we need to stick to. I hate to interrupt such a fruitful conversation, but we are going to be going back to the main chat right now. So that link I just sent out to everybody. So I also want to thank you, Jemmy. I think you've really enlightened a lot of us on how we can incorporate, how we can enhance our diet to help heal our brains and help our behavioral health concerns as well. So we thank you so much for taking the time to present today. And again, everyone, so Jemmy, please reach out to her email for any further questions.
Yes, always happy.
Wonderful, thank you. And please,
thank
everyone,
you very much.
Especially if you need the CEs, you're gonna have to return to the other Zoom chat, and that, again, is in our chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Megan. And thank you, everybody, for showing up and being so graceful with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jemmy.
Thank you.